Well, it isn't every day that someone of Ric Bucher's prominence joins our little show, but nonetheless, Ric Bucher, who currently covers the NBA for Fox Sports. He's been a Bay Area presence, he's been a national presence, and now he's a Locked On Warriors presence. We're going to talk Warriors and hopefully learn a little more about Mr. Bucher next. This is Locked On Warriors.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts. It is an absolute pleasure to have my next guest on the program. It's not every day people of his prominence grace our little show here. Ric Bucher, you can follow him on Twitter at Ric Bucher. Ric, how are you doing, sir? What part of the country are you in right now?
I'm in the Bay Area. That's where I'm based. So
nice.
Yeah, I don't have to go very far to check in on the Warriors, and I've had the opportunity to do that a little bit more this season. But then again, one of the reasons is because they're more interesting this season than they've been in quite some time.
Well, let's talk about that. You know, the team is 14-13, not a great record, but give us your reaction. And then later in the show, I'd love to give people some background about you as well. But let's talk about the Warriors here. What's your reaction to them beating the Celtics? I consider that to be a statement game. It's a reminder of who the best team in the NBA is. What was your reaction to that huge game Saturday night?
Yeah, I don't know that I would necessarily say it's a confirmation that the Golden State Warriors remain the best team in the NBA. I would say that they still have, for whatever reason, they still have the Boston Celtics number, and Jason Tatum's in particular. That was the most startling results from that particular game. I assumed after Tatum's performance in the finals last year, and then the way he started this season, there was some innuendo at the time back during the finals that he was injured, or he was dealing with I think it was a shoulder injury. And I was like, everybody's hurt at this time of the year. That's not a big deal. And then he comes out on fire, and he not just playing well, but playing so aggressively, attacking the rim and both ends of the floor. And I was thinking, who's going to guard him for the Warriors? So if you put Draymond Green on him, then who's going to guard Jaylen Brown? And I just thought that the Boston Celtics had way too many pieces to be able to, for the Warriors to slow them down. And then I'm watching Jonathan Kuminga not just lock up Jason, but Jason not being missing a couple shots early and then being tentative almost the rest of the game. And it just reminded me of who he was in the finals. And so if Jason Tatum isn't the Jason Tatum that we've seen all season long for the Boston Celtics, then the Boston Celtics, I don't care how well everybody else plays. Malcolm Brogdon played well. Jaylen Brown played well. It doesn't really matter. If your best player, and I would still say Jason Tatum is their best all-around, most talented player, if he's not leading you, if you're looking at him thinking, okay, what kind of a performance as a teammate? Okay, what's Jason going to give us tonight? And it's not a matter of just scoring or whatever. It's just being aggressive, asserting his will. And that was the most striking thing about the loss, is that he just kind of shrunk.
Yep.
Didn't have a good start. And then, I guess it's not my night. As the best player on the team, you don't have an option to take that approach. We don't see that with Steph. There are nights Steph has bad games, bad shooting nights. Doesn't happen very often, but it happens, or big turnover games. But he doesn't stop trying to figure it out, or he doesn't go, well, it's not my night. Clay, Draymond, can you take over? He's still involved. May not shoot quite as much, but he's still you feel his presence. He's making his presence felt.
Yes, sir.
I didn't get that from Tatum. So all of that is where, I looked at the Warriors, and I look at what their I look at the Steph playing tremendous. Klay Thompson, not so much. Draymond Green on occasion. And then looking for Kuminga and James Wiseman and Moses Moody and all these young guys to be impactful players. I'm just like, I just don't see the formula for them repeating. It's just asking too much. When I look at all the other teams out there and what they have, and I'm like, all things considered, everybody's healthy. Like, there are other teams that are just stocked deeper than they are. The Boston Celtics being one. But, the game the other night kind of reminded me, like, there's this institutional knowledge of, in big moments, how do you perform the closest to your potential? And the Warriors have that, led by Steph and by Draymond. And Klay's sort of in this gray area because he's still struggling just to play. And it reminded me of how powerful that can be. So it's not, look, last year, the Warriors were not the best team last year. They were the healthiest team at the right time. And the team with the most experience of how to get through adversity and how to, like, all of that, like, their institutional knowledge of what it took to win a championship is what pulled them through. And now, as I saw, like, the game the game against the Celtics, I'm like, okay, maybe that institutional knowledge is going to be enough to get them over the finish line again. I still have my doubts because I think that the competition is so thick. But, one more time, Steph and the Warriors are showing, like, you're going to have to kill us.
Yeah.
We're not going to die on our own. Like, we're not just going to go away. We're like the old San Antonio Spurs. You are going to have to put the nails in the coffin. We're not going to do it for you.
So would you then say that institutional knowledge does not necessarily translate to being the best team? Because that was an interesting thing you just said, that you felt like the Warriors were healthy at the right time. In your opinion, if it's not the Warriors, let's say everyone's healthy, everyone's just at tip-top shape going into the postseason. If it's not the Warriors and the Warriors just proved they can beat the Celtics, who I think a lot of people were thinking were that best team, who's going to dethrone the Warriors in your opinion?
I would say either the Milwaukee Bucks or the Los Angeles Clippers, again, at full strength. And the biggest reason is because both of those teams have star players and coaches who do have the institutional knowledge of what it takes to win a championship. Right. Who can say, look, this is a big deal. This is not a big deal. This is how we continue to do our work, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, there's reasons to doubt both of those teams, just that there is to doubt the Warriors. Right. But I look at the composition of those teams. Like, the Milwaukee Bucks are bringing everybody back from their championship team. So they know what it takes to get there. And that core is younger. Like, Giannis is only getting better. Right. The fact that Steph at 34 maintains who he is and in some ways has gotten better, without question. I mean, Steph is like such an outlier in all of this. At 34 to be doing what he's doing. Right. I wholeheartedly agree with you. We're going to have a lot more with Ric Bucher, an NBA analyst for Fox Sports. He's been covering this sport and been in this industry for decades, sir. And you have a very strong Bay Area connection, which you're here, but you've also been working here for a very long time. I'd love to learn about your history in just a moment. First, got to give some love to a longtime sponsor of this program. They were formerly known as Truebill. They're now known as Rocket Money. And the whole premise with Rocket Money is this: people subscribe to things that they don't even realize they're subscribed to. You're wasting money every month, every year, on subscriptions, on products that you're paying for that you don't even realize you're paying for. And that's where Rocket Money comes in. They're there to save the day and save you some money so that you're not wasting monthly subscription costs for streaming services, for repeat orders on Amazon, and you're strictly spending money on things you actually want.
So all you got to do is simply download the Rocket Money app or go to their website and save money today. We're joined by Ric Bucher here, again, an NBA analyst for Fox Sports, a longtime Bay Area media personality and national personality. I believe, is it true, by the way? I took a look at your Wikipedia page. Did you play 4 years of soccer, D1 soccer at Dartmouth? Is that correct?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
I love it.
That was my first sport. It was fascinating. I just had I just did a piece for foxsports.com talking to Steve Kerr about his affinity for the game of soccer. And turns out he's watching the World Cup avidly. He's a Liverpool fan. He's looking at it both he's watching the World Cup both as a fan and as an analyst looking for possible plays that they could run, things that he could translate from what's being done on set plays in soccer to inbounds plays in the NBA. And and then we got into talking about the game, and he was talking about how he likes basketball players who have played soccer because the two sports are very relative when it comes to footwork, spacing, offensive strategy, defensive strategy. I mean, everything, and which I can relate to having played both sports growing up. Actually had, this long shot dream of playing both in college, but soccer was my better sport. And so I kind of focused in on that and probably became a better basketball player after I graduated because I would get frustrated, like playing club soccer or doing things like that. I had a chance to play at a really high level. And I thought, I'm kind of being a jerk out here having expectations. This isn't fun for me. Let me go to the sport that I didn't play as much, that I didn't play at a high level. And let me cultivate my ability at that. Right. And so that kind of basketball became my passion, probably more so after I graduated from college.
And Kerr has such a diverse a set of interests. I interviewed him one time a few years ago for 15 minutes, just talking surfing. And he loves that as well. And
yep. As I surf as well. So we've had those conversations. He's got a spot. He and Bruce Frazier, one of the assistant coaches, Judd Bushler, former, right? There's a whole little cabal of guys from the NBA, and they actually have a spot down in Baja, Mexico, own a spot jointly that is where Jerry Lopez now hangs out. In fact, Jerry Lopez was going to buy the spot that they had, but apparently Jerry's wife didn't like the kitchen. So they ended up not buying that. So they bought another place in this little area there. And I've been after Steve and Q and those guys. I'm like, I want to be on the next trip that you guys take down there. So hasn't happened yet, but they promised me that it will.
Oh, we got to do another show where we just talk surfing, or at least because I didn't realize you're a surfer, sir. I've been doing that most of my life. And Q has mentioned about that spot in Baja that you just elaborated on. Yep. I did not know Jerry Lopez. For people who aren't aware, surfing legend.
Oh yeah. Now he's like 71. He's out there. He spends like 8 hours a day out at this break.
That's incredible. That is incredible. Yeah. We're probably boring the basketball fans here, but that's incredible to me. But real quick here, two things and I'll let you go. One is, in your opinion, there's a divide, I feel like, within Dub Nation and the fan base regarding James Wiseman. He's become a bit of a polarizing player. He's played, I believe, 7 games now for the Santa Cruz Warriors. We're recording this on Monday, December 12th, and he had another great game, I believe, just last night. In your opinion, is Wiseman the salve is he like the missing piece for this roster in terms of bench depth and size? Do you think the team needs to still make a trade? What are your thoughts on the whole Wiseman situation?
It's great. It's a great question. It's actually something that I've been talking to a lot of people around the league about and plan on writing about here sometime in the near future, because I don't know that there's an easy answer, right? Do I think that Wiseman can help them, or Kuminga or Moody for that matter, but Wiseman in particular, since you asked the question, can he help them now to win a championship now? No, he's just he hasn't, he's just learning how to play the game. He played 3 games in college. Right. He's played 7 now in the in the G League. He's played like somebody put this to me, another former player. He was like, has he even hit the 10,000 hours of basketball at this level? Like we consider to be an expert at something, you got to spend 10,000 hours at it, right?
Interesting. Okay.
Has he played 10,000 professional hours of basketball?
Probably
I
not.
highly doubt it.
Yeah, probably not.
Highly doubt it. So you're not just asking him to be an NBA player. You're asking him to be a meaningful player on an NBA championship team. Now, and watching him play, like if you want him to be a rim protector, if you want him to be that kind of guy, that kind of center, like a Capella, right? He doesn't have those instincts. Like that to me is like being a great rebounder.
Mm-hmm.
You either are or you aren't. Now you can get better, and I think he can get better as a rim protector. But I went to his first G League game this year.
A lot of people did.
And I know, which gives you an indication of how important he is to the franchise.
Yeah.
And those guys had no problem measuring, like the guards coming down, measuring and getting shots over him or dumping it off to the big. And so he's trying to think his way to being a shot blocker and leaving his feet all the time. The greatest shot blockers I've seen, half the time they it's not even blocking the shot. They don't allow the shot to happen because the threat that they pose. And they pose that threat not by leaving their feet. They by using their length, and they block shots not by because they can jump 40 inches. Zion Williamson is a terrible shot blocker. He's as athletic as any guy in the league, right?
Right.
It's why guys who have wingspans greater than their height are the best shot blockers and stealers, because mentally I gauge a defender and his reach based on his height.
Yeah.
Now, when a guy has 3-4 inches more in his reach, that throws me off because he can get to the ball where I'm thinking, now I know where he is. I know how tall he is. Like it's sort of just an instinctive relationship understanding. I got a 6-footer in front of me. I've got this. Oh, I can hit this. Oh, but the guy's got a 6'8" wingspan. How did he get I got to account for that.
Right.
In any event, so the question is, do you trade Wiseman to get something now to maximize Steph while he's playing this way and whatever? Draymond, you still have this core together. And the only way I would do that is if I'm getting a guy who can replace Klay Thompson as my second option, not only now, but going forward. So right. I need a 27 to 29-year-old all-star, right? Who can be the number 2 option on a championship team. What are the chances that I'm going to get that for James Wiseman right now?
No, you're not.
Now, would I get that for James Wiseman and Jonathan Kuminga?
I don't want to trade Kuminga personally. I don't know about you, but
okay, but now, so the answer is a lot more complicated.
Very.
And so it's not as simple as deciding whether you want to trade Wiseman or not, or Kuminga or Moody or any of the young. It's what am I getting back?
Right.
And I am of the mind that Wiseman is talented enough, not as a shot blocker, actually, but offensively,
mm-hmm.
and young enough and inexperienced enough. I don't want to trade him that quick.
I'm with you.
He can't be what you need him to be right now. But the reality is, at some point, you're turning the page on this team. Maybe as soon as next year, depending on the decision they make on Draymond Green.
Right.
So, for that reason, I don't want to give away a Wiseman who I don't know exactly how good he can be. All I know is he can't get me what I need to win right now.
Yeah, that's fair. Are you? I'm ecstatic right now about Kuminga. Do you share the similar sentiments? Like, I'm loving what I see. Same? No?
I kind of go back and forth.
Okay.
I like, there are certain things literally this season I've gone back and forth. There's times where I see him play and I go, oh, he can help. Like, he can help.
Yes.
He can be something special. And I take into consideration the things that Draymond and some of the players who practice with him on a daily basis say, because that work ethic is an important part of it.
Absolutely.
But it's also a matter of him embracing what he needs to be. Like, don't worry about your offense, your energy. Can you bring the same mindset that Gary Payton the second brought to the game? If you do, then you can be the nuclear version of Gary Payton because of his athleticism and his size.
Do you have time?
That's my question. Can Kuminga embrace that? Or is it like,
I think so.
I'm a lottery pick. Like, I got to be a star. You can't, Jordan Poole's kind of the flip side of that. Hey, Jordan, you're really good. I mean, really good. Special scorer. You need to learn how to defend, or you're not like, I'm not building around you. You need to learn how to defend if you have any hope of replacing Klay Thompson. And right now he's not. And that troubles me because he's already gotten paid. He's like, the stardom's already coming. Like, I just hope he realizes like how, and it's not that he's not great already. I don't begrudge him any of that, but how great he could be if he says, I want to be a two-way player.
And I totally see the flip side argument where Kuminga is just the opposite. You need him to put aside the offense, focus on I'm following what you're saying there. Do you have time for one more question? I just want to introduce people to you. Today's show is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. And folks, if you're looking for work, by the way, LinkedIn is the absolute place to go. And if you're trying to hire people, LinkedIn Jobs is the place for you to go. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnba. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnba to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen today. After us, check out Locked On Sports today. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports today, available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Tell us about your background. I believe you were a beat reporter many years ago for the San Jose Mercury News, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And then I remember when you were hosting the morning show at the Warriors flagship 95.7 The Game with my boy, Chris Townsend.
Yep.
I've seen you everywhere. Your Twitter presence is massive. How did you go from being a D1 soccer player at Dartmouth to now being one of the biggest NBA reporters, personalities, whatever label you want to apply to that in the NBA? I mean, you're wildly successful in my humble opinion, Rick. So how did you get to where you are, sir?
All right. I'll give you the shortest version.
All right.
This is a terrible question to end this conversation with, but I will.
Why terrible? Why terrible? Why is that so bad?
Because who cares? Who really cares? I mean, because
Right.
like people who are watching and listening, they either are interested in what we talked about, or they're the validation at this point. Like, I didn't listen.
No, you're being humble. You're being humble. You're being humble.
About
People
Rick's
do care, sir. People
autobiography. All right. So, I thought that I grew up in Cincinnati, thought I would go to wherever I got the best soccer scholarship, through very unusual circumstances, had an opportunity to go to Dartmouth. At that point I decided, okay, I'm still going to play soccer, but my thoughts of like being a pro or like any of that, I'm here for the education. Thought I was going to become a lawyer because my parents have, lower middle class, blue collar family out of the Midwest. Got to become a lawyer. That's it. I'm not cut out to be a doctor. I'll become an attorney.
Okay.
Had an internship with Sports Illustrated when I was in college.
Oh,
right. And that changed my view. I was like, wow, like this is cool. I could do this. And these guys are making a little bit of money. Like, okay, like this is what I want to do. So, thought I was going to go back to New York, work for Esquire, the New Yorker. Like, no, I went to work in San Diego I got an internship in San Diego covering high school sports.
For the Tribune?
For the San Diego Union. It was the morning paper.
Right. Yeah.
Was there for some years, covered indoor soccer there. Greatest beat I've ever had. I got to practice with them on the road if they needed an extra, and they were winning championships. It was a glorious thing. Got hired by the San Jose Mercury News to cover the 49ers. I'd been corresponding with the sports editor for a couple of years because a friend of mine got married in the Bay Area, and I fell in love with the Bay Area.
Mm-hmm.
And the Mercury News at the time was a top 20 sports section. So I thought that was like the perfect marriage. I wanted to come up and either cover college basketball or the Warriors. I wanted to cover basketball. They hired me to cover the 49ers. How are you going to say?
What years was this?
89, 90, right around there.
Oh, dude, that was like the golden era.
Right at the end of the golden era.
Okay, yeah.
So my first Super Bowl was when they crushed the Broncos in New Orleans, like by a gazillion points. Right. But anyway, the thing that I found is you have to have a passion for your sport. Otherwise it feels like work. And at that time, my view of football has really changed since now my son is playing in college.
Wow. Where?
Trinity. It's a Division III school down in San Antonio, but they're a national Division III powerhouse. He played for
congratulations.
He played 2 years in high school. So the fact that he's playing in college is amazing to me. Anyway. I couldn't say no to covering the 49ers, but my passion really was basketball. And so I was able to kind of migrate my way over to covering the Warriors. I did that from like 92, 93. That was my first season to 97, 98. And then the Washington Post came calling.
Ooh.
And I went to the Washington Post, and when I got there, they said, give us a year before you go to ESPN. And I was like, are you nuts? Like I just got to the Washington Post from the San Jose Mercury News. ESPN's never even heard of me for what there was a story I did that I appeared, but I was like, I've never gotten any indication that they want to hire me. It was almost a year to the day. ESPN called. And what I learned was that the Boston Globe, New York Times, and Washington Post were a feeder. That's where ESPN looked for their next talent as reporters who could be on TV. Get hired by ESPN, move back to the Bay Area. That's why it went back and forth between the Post and ESPN at the time. But ESPN was going to allow me to live in the Bay Area. And that was really the deciding factor for me. It was the first time in my life that I was homesick for a place.
Wow. That's crazy. Okay.
So moved back to the Bay Area, worked for ESPN for 14 years, get married, have kids. and my kids were 5 and 7, and I was back in Bristol all the time, or I was on the road covering the NBA, or I was at the draft, whatever I was doing. And I thought, I don't want my kids to leave for high school. I mean, leave for college. And I wasn't there for I want to be able to coach them in games. I want to be a dad.
Right.
So tried to work something out with ESPN where it was part-time. And we couldn't come to an agreement on how that would work. So I turned down their last offer, took the radio show at 95.7, didn't know what else I was going to do. The Warriors asked if I would be their sideline reporter.
That's right.
So I did that for a couple. So I did that for a couple of years.
God.
Did that for a couple of years.
That's right.
Then Bleacher Report approached me about writing for them. They were connected to TNT. So then I started doing some sideline for TNT, writing for Bleacher Report. Then Sirius XM and Bleacher Report had a radio channel. Moved from 95.7 to Sirius XM. When Bleacher Report radio channel went away, they incorporated us into Mad Dog, the Mad Dog Sports channel.
Nice.
And then, and one thing I discovered with the Warrior sideline thing, because I really thought that was like a coming home for me.
Right.
That I was going to do that for a long time. But the problem was that I was doing the 95.7 radio gig and I was being a sideline reporter. And here's the reality of being a Warriors sideline reporter. You have to be a Warriors you have to be a Warriors fan on air. Like, correct. Yeah. You're not an independent journalist. This is my view, like all of that. Like you have to be a homer. I that has such a negative tone to it. And I just couldn't do it. Like, right. I just felt uncomfortable in that. It just felt weird to me. I'd always maintained a certain autonomy. I'm going to be honest with you. Now, I got to know players and coaches well enough that I will always, I try to give you their side of things. I try to be understanding. I don't try to be this cutthroat, like you suck because you missed the game winner or that, stuff like that.
Right.
But there's a shade of like, well, we're not going to talk. Anyway, so left that, doing the Sirius XM radio show, missed doing TV. And Colin Cowherd and I have long been friends since we worked together at ESPN.
Good man.
He kind of brought me into the Fox circle, and then it's just kind of expanded from there. And then I got an opportunity to talk both basketball and football in their studio shows. And so I am where I am. My kids are now both in college.
Crazy, man. That's crazy.
And so I get to go back to that's why you see me at more Warriors games and why I'm getting out there more. Cause I kind of get the opportunity now to dive back into covering the NBA the way I used to. So that was way long. I tried to shorten it as much as I could. I apologize. To all the listeners out there, I'm sorry. I tried to.
No, that is an interesting story, Rick. That is an interesting story. I mean, because I was actually trying to look you up a little bit and do a little research like I do with guests, and there isn't a lot. So I was like, you know what? This is actually going to be a part of the show. I love it, Rick. I guarantee you people were very interested and hooked the whole time. And look, man, congrats on all your success. Like Townsend always told me you were a great dude, because him and we go way back. I love that guy. And I hope you come back. That was awesome, sir. Anything you want to promote before we go? I know you're on Twitter. Obviously, you got almost 800,000 followers there at Ric Bucher. Anything else to promote before we?
I've got a podcast, On the Ball, with me. Nice. And it's, once or twice a week. And it's basically kind of behind the scenes look at things that are going on. It gives me an opportunity to riff on things that I either don't fit into the writing space, or you don't have enough time on TV. Probably replaces the radio element for me, and I'm sure you can relate to this. Like, once you've done the radio thing on a daily basis, you kind of build an appetite for being able to stuff is happening out there, and like I got some insight into this because of the people I'm around or whatever. Like I need an outlet.
Yes, sir.
That's what that serves.
Well, bravo on everything. I'm sure the family is probably your greatest accomplishment, but everything you've done is incredible. And I can't thank you enough for the time you've taken out of your schedule to join us for Locked On Warriors. I hope you come back again soon, Rick. Thank you, man. And I'll see you at the games, obviously, but it was a pleasure, man. Thank you, sir.
My pleasure, Cyrus.